Let's talk to Kevin. All right, Kevin. You are on the Atheist Experience. What would you like to talk about today?
Hi,
Hi, Kevin.
I want to
Hi.
make sure I know who I'm talking to. I'm with Kevin. Is it Shannon? I'm Kevin, and who else is on?
Secular Rarity.
Okay.
So you can just SR.
Should I call you Secular Rarity?
You can call me
What's
SR. Yeah, I don't know that we're going to be calling each other by name a bunch, but yeah, SR's just fine. What do you got for us today, Kevin?
Well, so I've spoken with a lot of people about these kind of proofs of God that I like to use. Not God, actually, more like divinity, because more like a spiritual aspect to life and living. And you know, I feel like I'm very convincing, and I'm able to like sway a lot of people. Maybe not necessarily atheists who are like, you know, really deep into atheism, but yeah, even sometimes like really strong atheists can be swayed by, you know, my style of proving things. So
you have set yourself up. Let's see how good you are.
Well,
I am really deep into atheism. See if you can get me.
Yeah, I noticed. I really enjoy your shows, and I wanted to call into one of my favorite shows. So you know, I like Talk Heathens and Secular Rarity and all this stuff. And I mean, the Atheist Experience is like the first show that I started listening to. But I worry that it might not be moral, because a lot of the religious people that I interact with, they have opinions that kind of scare me, and like, the more they become religious, the more I feel like I'm kind of like guiding them into doing things that are just immoral, you know?
So I want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying. You're saying that you're able to compel people somehow, like, so you're persuasive. And because you're persuasive and people believe you, they end up believing whatever your theology is. And when they believe whatever your theology is, then they start engaging in more immoral acts as a result. Is that what you're saying?
I guess that's close enough. Yeah, that's close enough to what I'm saying. Yeah.
And I would say that your theology is immoral.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are you teaching immoral behavior? Like, are you teaching behavior that you would say is immoral and harmful? That's almost what it sounds like.
I wouldn't say that. It's just that people, they'll latch on to things. Like, sometimes it doesn't even matter how thin, and they'll just kind of add them to their arsenal of the things that they say to justify, you know, their personal opinion of theology. And it's not necessarily what I'm trying to show or explain, but they're like, yeah, well, this guy's on my side, and you know, he seems really like he knows what he's talking about. So that means that my personal beliefs are true. And then they kind of get carried away.
You know? Okay, I'm getting. Can we start at like what form of religious belief do you have? That's probably a good starting off point, because like, are you Christian? Are you Muslim? Are you a Taoist? Like, what is your religion?
Well, it's interesting, because I like to say that it doesn't really matter what religious background you come from, because it's just giving you the tools to understand.
I'm not asking what is your religion? If you had to self-identify, somebody like me is asking you directly what you believe in.
I don't have a word for it.
But you are able to persuade people to believe in something you can't even describe.
Yeah. Well, it'd be great if you had a single word like Islam, right? But if you kind of need to lay it out to us in like a quick, hey, I believe in some magical thing in the sky and it like takes care of us. Like, I mean, that would be helpful. That would give us, if you're saying it's kind of like Protestantism, Christianity, like that'd be kind of helpful too. We're not going to like nail you to the wall for this one and like force you
jumping off point.
You know, yeah, exactly. We're just trying to get it going so we understand where you're coming from.
Would you be willing to listen to a really short story?
No, probably not.
Yeah, we do have a
Probably
bunch
not.
of calls.
We have like a
so,
ton of people waiting,
yeah.
and I want to be respectful for them. So if there's not something like concrete that we can have a discussion about, we'll
Mhm.
likely move on to the next caller that's
I-
been waiting for quite some time.
I would say, for example, that Christianity would be more useful. It would be like a more useful religion.
Is that what you believe? Are you a Christian?
I just think that the tools of Christianity are more useful. I'm just more like a polytheist.
So do you believe in a specific sort of pantheon?
It's nothing specific. I just feel like the interactions occur with people. They occur, with individuals, and I just couldn't accept anything else. You could argue with me all day, and I would listen to you, but it would never really like resonate with me. I'd always just continue to believe what I believe.
Right. Okay. So I feel we're getting closer to even knowing what you believe. I'm not attempting to change what you believe. I'm attempting to understand it.
Right.
You called us, right? So we wanted to ostensibly to have a discussion about something like this. So you believe that there are multiple gods then?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. But you
Although
think that Christianity is a moral system. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I just wouldn't say they're necessarily all powerful. I just think that they are like very powerful, just not even like maximally powerful.
Okay. So when you're I have a better understanding now, so I'll get back to your initial point because I don't want to go too far off the rails on what you decided to call about. So when you say that you're talking to people and potentially, I guess, convincing them that there's multiple gods that have whatever varying degrees of power, they then do immoral things. I guess I'm just not understanding what it is that you mean by that.
Yeah.
Like, because that seems pretty innocuous.
I'll meet somebody like on a Sunday, they'll be doing like a meditation class, and they're just saying like, the light of the world is like guiding you to be peaceful and loving, and it's trying to convince you to leave this world and expand and ascend to a place of greater compassion, like this kind of stuff, and it really resonates. Like, maybe it's only emotional, but it feels very tangible. So, I feel like it should help people a lot, but then after the meditation, the conversations are more like, oh, those stupid monkeys don't even believe in God kind of stuff. And it's like, oh man, that just hurts, So where does the positivity go? Right.
So what are the immoral actions that people are taking more so after kind of having been persuaded by your proofs of divinity? It sounded like right there at the end, you said that maybe a flavor of bigotry or racism of some kind. Is that what you're saying? You're seeing more from people, or is it like are people talking with you about your understanding of divinity and then like going out and murdering people? Like, what's the level here that's?
There have been, instances of people doing things that they're like criminal things, actual physical, like, violence and things like that. But most of the time, it's just bigotry. It's just like creating out groups and separating people. And
could it possibly be the case that you're creating an environment that is insulating people in their own ideas, not allowing in a significant or an adequate amount of external influence, and that as a result of cultivating that environment, you're creating a severe in-group bias, and that kind of naturally leads towards vilification of outgroups and ambiguity regarding moral imperatives, because you kind of create your own internally insular moral systems.
Yeah. It's so painful. Because
sounds like that potentially is the case.
Yeah. But people just take you in the wrong direction, you know?
Well, if this is the environment that you're cultivating, it may not be your intention, but that's kind of the natural psychological outcome of creating those sort of insular environments where you tell a group of people that they have a form of
Or
truth.
at church, anywhere. It always ends up this way, you know?
I think that to a certain
I'm
degree
wondering if
you're
there's
right,
another way,
depending on how innocuous the religion can be, right? So some religions have such cultural permeation, like Christianity is to a certain degree an example of this, because you can have people that have a form of cultural identification with with a religious system that isn't based solely on the tenets of the religious system. It's based on this sort of like loose idea of what the religious system is, like a cafeteria Christian is what we tend to call them. But if you purposefully orchestrate and create an environment that insulates people, tells them that they have the one truth and that other people do not have that truth, and especially if you're consistently putting them in these sort of meditative states, if you're engaging in this sort of group meditation, which is what it sounds like is possibly the case, that environment is just demonstrably rife for this type of thing. Like, they become incredibly insular, they become very in-group dependent, they become very suspect of people who are in the out-group, and they create their own insular internal moral system that they don't draw from outside groups, that exist solely to protect themselves, and things can fly off the rails. Can you recognize that, perhaps?
Confirming what I suspect, because it's a big part of my life.
I know, and it sounds like it's exceptionally important to you, and that you're worried about what it might be causing. And I would like you to strongly ask yourself the question, and it sounds like you're emotionally grappling with it. If this is what your actions are causing, are these actions you should engage in?
Well, the other question is just, I mean, isn't it going to happen anyway? I mean, maybe
No.
somehow.
No, you don't get to scapegoat it. You don't get to say, if it wasn't me, it would be somebody else. You just don't get to say that.
Maybe it's just a little bit better than what.
Not if people are engaging in violence.
Yeah.
Not if people are engaging in violence or self-harm or bigotry as a result of the community that an environment that's being cultivated.
Getting outside of the realm of reality here, because I mean, there are different levels of this. Like, if I go to somebody else's church and I interact with people afterwards, it does seem like it's worse than when I'm just doing like a meditation session with people.
That's whataboutism. That's absolutely whataboutism. You're just saying, look over here, right?
Yeah.
Like, if me and SR are standing in a room and I punch him repeatedly in the face, and then somebody says, you know what, you shouldn't do that. And then I say, yeah, well, there's people being stabbed and shot on the street. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
This comparatively, what I'm doing isn't as bad as what I see as could possibly take place. So what's to stop me? That's the logic that's being used.
Yeah, they're both bad. And because they're both bad, Kevin, the acts that you're engaging in that are causing that harmful behavior, that's what you need to take care of and focus on, because you're not the person that's doing those other things that are causing the bad things. But if you are doing bad things, even if they're less bad than other things you could do, you still should stop doing those things, right? I think that's kind of where Shannon was going with that.
Right.
Well, sometimes it's just different. So, what you're saying, it makes sense, but what I'm trying to explain is basically like the people that act this way, I feel like they act this way all the time, and they're like, maybe like speaking their language would help them to take small steps in the right direction.
But what you called in about initially, one of the first things you said, and please, after this episode, go back and rewatch this and listen to what you called us to say, because one of the things that you started with was, after people engage with me and my good proofs, they do worse things. And so it sounds like while the worst things that they're doing may be better than some of the worst things that can be done. Okay, sure, maybe they're not calling for crusades again, but it sounds like by your own admission, you recognize the harm that is coming from speaking to people and convincing them in such a way. And if you recognize that, why wouldn't you want to stop doing that?
Right.
No, I just didn't connect the dots.
Well,
you actually put it that way. Yeah, I can't avoid it.
So we're gonna let you go. I appreciate the sincerity of the call, and I appreciate you sticking with us so that we could kind of get to the bottom of what's going on. This was a good conversation. I encourage you to listen back to it and reflect, but I can tell that this has an emotional impact on you. So I think it's probably a good time for us to have a conversation stop anyway, but know that I send you with good wishes and I appreciate the opportunity to have the conversation. Okay. All right, Kevin, have a good day.